Hi, I'm James Muir, and this is a screencast for Make More Noise and the Miskin Theatre at North West Kent College. This is the second part of our tutorial on creating live sampling trigger instruments for GarageBand. These are the kind of instruments you can use to drop sound effects into a live performance, a play, a podcast, a radio show, or for film or for video work. If you watch the first part, you'll be familiar with where we've got to so far, which is that we've created a new instrument and saved it with a new name and changed some of the sample set sounds. What we're going to look at this initially in this tutorial is creating a blank instrument, so an instrument that has no sounds loaded to it at all, so that every time we start we've got a template from which to start. So the first thing we're going to do in this tutorial is create a new track, which we do by going to the drop down menu at the top of the screen, Track, and selecting the New Track option. We then get a choice of whether we want that to be a software instrument, a real instrument, or electric guitar. In this case, we're going to go for a real instrument and create. And now we've got a new no effects track here in the arrange window. And as you can see, it's metering a little bit as I'm talking because it's selected to that input. But actually what I want to do is create a couple of seconds of silence. So I'm going to drop it into record with the big record button here at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to shut up for a couple of seconds so that we do get silence, and then we can use that silence to overwrite the files that come in one of the preset instruments. Okay, now we've got our silent file here. If we double click on that in the arrange window, and it brings up the editor here at the bottom of the screen. And if you click where it says no effects, double click should I say, you can now rename that. So I'm going to call that silence. And once we've done that, we can click on it again in the arrange window, and under the edit menu we can select add to loop library, and I'm going to call this startup silence, and click create. Okay, that should now be in our loop library, so we're finished with our silence file in the arrange window, so we can delete that. I'm just using the delete key on my keyboard. And if we come across to the loop browser here on the right hand side of the screen, we got a little search field here at the bottom, so we can type in start up and search, and here's our start up silence we've just created. Okay, so if we go back to our NWKC demo instrument, and again like we did in the first tutorial, select musical typing from under the window, you'll see we've got the instrument we made last time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and replace the samples that are already on these keys with silence. And as you can see at the bottom, you've got a nice clear list of the names of all the files. So each one of those will be replaced with a copy of this startup silence file. So the first one you would do by dragging across the A key, second one across the W, third one across the S, and you can see the list here is updating to reflect that we've now got silence on these keys instead of them actually playing a sample file. This is going to take me a couple of seconds to do the whole instrument. It's a little bit time consuming, but once you've done it, we can save it off as a new instrument, and it only needs to be done once. I'll cut away, do that, and I'll come back to you. Okay, as you can see from the list, we've now got our silence loaded into every one of the available slots, and if we press one of the keys, we don't hear anything at all. This is quite a good idea because what I'm doing here is effectively insulating myself against future mistakes. So if I just replaced the sounds that I wanted to work in my new instrument and left the old sounds there, there's always the chance that I'm accidentally going to trigger an inappropriate sound for the piece we're doing at the time. By recreating this new instrument and having silences in every one of the slots, even if I press the wrong key, I'm not going to end up with something completely inappropriate. So the next thing we need to do is save that instrument, which we do by going down to the right hand bottom corner of the screen and clicking on the View Hide Track Info button, which is the little icon of the letter I there. And then we've got the Save Option button, which we discussed, Save Instrument button, which we discussed in the first tutorial. And I'm going to call this Startup. Okay, and once we've saved that, we can shut down the musical typing window, browse away, have a listen to the heavy metal organ. And then we can go back to our sound effects list, and here's our startup instrument, and if we just open up our musical typing window again, you'll see we've got startup silence in every one of the slots. Okay, now we've done that, what I'm going to do is show you where to find some cool free sounds on the internet, and then I'm going to show you how to load those up into this instrument that we've created. Okay, back in a second. The next thing we need to do is find some sounds to add to our newly created startup instrument. I've come straight to Google, but you can buy these kind of sounds ready-made on CDs or DVDs. But I'm actually looking for some sounds for free rather than actually paying for them. So if we did a search in Google, you'll see actually in one of their pre-prepared searches, you've got a search here for free sound effects. As you can see over on the right-hand side here, you've got some ones you can pay for here. Hollywood Sound Effects Library for $149 a year. And then down in the normal Google search, you've got a bunch of free samples you can download. I actually found a really nice site when I was doing the prep for this video the other night, which is called freesound.org. So I'm just going to do a search for that, which takes us to freesound.org, and we'll go straight to their homepage. As you can see, I'm logged in here. It's a site you do need to sign up for, and you need to read the terms and conditions quite carefully when you sign up, because all of these sounds are licensed under the Creative Commons license. Once you're in and you've signed up, you can come down the screen a little bit and you'll see we've got this search browse list here. So you can either search by tags, which gives us a list of popular tags we can search by. So let's have a quick look at one of those and see if we can find something we like the look of there. Let's try effects. Looks like quite a lot of those are going to be synthy, and we're actually looking more for traditional sound effects. So let's have a look in the sample packs. Just scrolling down the screen until I find something that takes my fancy. Let's have a look at this sonic gun pack. The other really nice thing about this is you can preview these samples before you download them just by clicking on the play button, which is to the left-hand side of each sample. Okay, and if you look at the top of the screen here, you'll see you've got a link, download this pack. So let's download that whole pack. I'll cut away while it's downloading, and then the next thing we'll do is have a look at how to get those sounds into GarageBand. Okay, our download is complete, and I've dragged them out to the desktop to make them a little bit more easy to reference to. The other thing I should mention is that anything you download from freesound.org comes with these nice details and attribution text documents, so you can see who originally created the files and who you need to give your credit to. So these ones, I think, as I mentioned earlier, come from Sonic Valley Productions. The next question then becomes, how do we get them into GarageBand so we can use them? Well, you can do it a little bit like we did with the blank file we created earlier. So if you drag them across the window, once you get them across GarageBand, you should see a green plus sign comes up. If you let go of that, so it's then in the window, you can have a quick listen to it and audition it, make sure it's the sound you want. And then if you click on it to highlight it, and under the edit menu select add to loop library. And this sample was of a Magnum single, so we'll give it the name that seems most appropriate, Magnum single. We can then click the create button down here in the bottom right hand corner of the box, and that should be added to our loop library. So if we now delete it from our arrange window, we can now do a search for Magnum by typing into the search field and then hitting the enter key. And there's our Magnum single. So back to the window drop down menu, reopen musical typing. We can drag the Magnum single over the key A, and there's the first of our sounds loaded up and ready to go. And then the process is exactly the same as that. You can just do it for all of the samples and load up what's appropriate to the situation you're trying to create. I've been James Muir, and this has been a screencast for the Miskin Theatre at North West Kent College and Make More Noise. Hope you found it useful.